Welcome back, everyone, to Tarot Journeys with Guy. How's everybody doing out there? Hope you're having a wonderful day. Here we are. We're going to do some more tarot. Now, I missed on the weekend. I went away for the weekend, had an awesome time. And I thought, wow, this is kind of a good opportunity to do another Zodiac reading. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little Zodiac read like how we did last month. And that was kind of like my welcome back, I guess, right? But we did one, and it was loosely for the month of Taurus. And so I guess this one is going to be around Gemini in our month. So we've just entered into the astrological sign of Gemini. Okay. And so, yeah, we'll do a reading around the world like we did with the last one and some spiritual insight and guidance. Now, man, a lot of things have happened since we've sat last time together. Major people stepping down from these globalist deep state organizations, one of them being the head of the World Economic Forum. That was a big one. Okay. And a lot of these people, it's like rats leaving a sinking ship, what we've got going on here, right? But then sort of in the back burner, as part of their op starts to fail, other parts of it start to come out, and you start to see deep state elements in the States and within NATO and stuff trying to trigger a world war. And on the other side, they're kind of playing into it, right? And so in like all of these divisions, and we've talked a lot about that stuff. What else did we have happen? The Iranian president, I guess, he passed. He died in a helicopter crash, right? That was another one. That was a big one. Week before that, I guess it was the Slovakian PM. There was an assassination attempt. Okay. And so whatever is going on, things are kind of moving, right? And people pushing back in the UK, people pushing back in Germany, people pushing back in the Netherlands. And this sort of populist motion is moving forward. A lot of people are waking up. They don't want a destruction to their society and a destruction to their way of life. And that's what the pushback is about, right? And so entering into the next phase of it, President Trump is still got a huge road ahead of him. I'm not sure what's going to happen with his lawfare case that's going on right now with the jury, and just hope that it remains, a hung jury. But yet it's sort of this thing of like the take back and the pushback. The take back is now, and it is time for us to activate, and time for us to be motivated around this, because it's not going to be easy, but yet this is where we're at. We've been expecting a lot of this, and this just like the preparation for it. Oh yeah, another big thing, the World Health Organization's UN pandemic treaty failed, right? And they're going to try to push for something else, and maybe that's part of it, right? They're going to put this on the back burner and try to push something else forward in timing for the election, the presidential election in the United States. We're not really sure. And just they keep pushing, for the AI insertion. The globalists really want this sort of AI takeover, and onward and onward and onward, right? And here we are as the people holding the space, I guess that's a good way to put it, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to seek guidance and a spiritual message for the world, us in the world. What do we need to hear? What is coming in the next month, I guess, or in this time of Gemini? And we're going to go through each sign. And so you can look at it as though it's a personal reading for you when we hit your sign or particular aspects, right? Because we have 9 planets and different aspects in our chart. Or you can take the whole reading as one reading, right? Okay. Okay, let's go here. That's interesting. The middle card comes up as the Ace of Pentacles. So this is really good. This is definitely this sort of new start that we're talking about. Now, here, let me just kind of go something I didn't mention in the beginning. So, with me, I'm, as people that have been watching me for a while, I guess, or kind of know me, consistency. Yes, I love consistency, but this thing of the structure and the schedule and stuff, I'm not always well accustomed to it. I'm not always, and that's why I kind of missed, and I do miss sometimes. And so you got to kind of forgive me. I do try to be consistent. So what we are going to do is I am going to do another reading on Sunday, probably try to put one out for Sunday. But I thought, wow, what a great opportunity to do the Zodiac, because I don't do the Zodiac enough. I realized that the last time I did it, I really like them. They're really fun, actually. It's such a good way to sort of introduce astrology and to continue the lesson of astrology. Okay. And it also kind of gets us out of this idea that cards and everything is just there to sort of read the future, and it's really not. And my take on it is such that the astrology and the numbers and the cards and things, these are tools for our own personal development, but it is there for us to connect with Source, the higher self, let's say, right? And to access that divine aspect and the divine aspect of self, and to allow ourselves to grow and to perfect ourselves and to better ourselves, I guess, right? And that's like a big part of it, right? And that's what's so good about modern astrology, especially. It helps us access that spiritual side of ourselves. That's what's needed right now. Okay. So, and I just wanted to say that. So yes, we're going to do another reading, on Sunday. And, as we keep going, I'm going to try to continue, and I'm going to try to keep on a structure, because that seems to be a good time, Sunday and Monday, to do, sort of a weekly update. But yet, some weeks you just don't feel it. And that's kind of how it goes, right? You have to go with what you feel. There needs to be a balance between the intellect and the intuition, right? But yet you have to go with what your heart is sort of compelling you. And sometimes when I go to sit down to do readings for YouTube, I don't feel it. And I kind of understand afterwards. I don't really know why, right? We are in a spiritual struggle. We are in a spiritual war right now. It has a lot to do with sort of capturing our hearts and minds. Okay. And so being able to pull oneself off of that track is very necessary. You got to be able to put yourself back on it too. Right. So, and I think that's kind of, that's part of our lesson. That's part of what this, what we're moving into that new sort of era, a new time, that Aquarian impulse where, that structure of the old does have to shift and change and transform. There are parts of it that we do need to keep. And there are parts of it that don't serve us. Like for instance, my aim is freedom. Freedom. That's very simple. That's one of my major aims. I have to be able to live in freedom. I have to also understand what that means. Now, there's a simple equation, actually. Freedom relies on truth, discipline, and love. That to me is very core. And so you cannot be free without being disciplined. And sometimes, that freedom, it isn't free. There is a cost. There is something that we have to pay for it. We have to be responsible for it. We have to discipline our lives around it. or it goes away, right? That's one thing. So we will do some more readings. And that's kind of a cool thing. So the Ace of Pentacles. Now that's interesting. I'm going to talk a little bit about the center card right from the beginning, right? Because Pentacles represent the earth sign, or the sign of the earth, okay? The symbol of the earth. But yet it's everything that the earth and everything that we experience on the material plane. Everything. Relationships, our doings, what we build, what we create, what we tear down. It's not just about money. Now, part of the ruse of the last astrological age especially is the entrapment of money, this ensnarement of the material world. And that's kind of what we're dealing with. It's putting everything sort of back into its proper place. That's what we're looking for. The material world isn't inherently good or isn't inherently bad. It has a lot to do with our take on it. That's kind of the specialness of the human form. I mean, left untouched and pristine without humans is a different story, but yet that's what the death cult globalists, deep state that have captured all of our countries, that's what they want. Partly, okay? No, what we're talking about is reinvigorating and readjusting human connection to our material world and seeing it not from that sort of that dualistic point of view of good or bad. It is. So what are we here to do with it? What are we here to do for it? What are we here, like, how are we here to, like, take part? All of those kind of questions, right? That's super important. That's super important. But yet, when it comes up, like in this position here, right? Like the right side up is a very good sign. Things are moving forward. So like, this is a big part of what we have to remind ourselves. Don't get tricked by what they want us to see, what the mainstream media, the legacy media wants us to perceive, what the infrastructure, what the system wants us to see. Because when we start to look around and we start to engage our world, it's a different story. And that's what it wants us to sort of awaken to. And I mean, we talk about this all the time. This is a big part. This is a big part of the awakening, right? So it's very important. And so like they're losing. And we are entering into potentially even scarier times, but yet it's good. It is one of these things that it does have to get dark before the light of dawn rises, you know, that expression, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at here. And so with the Geminians, our little Geminian friends out there, yeah, they're going to be busy. They're going to be busy little agents, right? Because that's Gemini is the air sign and is ruled by Mercury. Okay. And so it has a lot to do with the thought and the mind and the communication, but on a very everyday level, on very simple levels, but there's complexity to it, but yet it's how the world works, you know, and networking and things. Okay. So that's that. Okay. So for Aries, Aries represents, Aries here on this side here where my finger is pointing, marks the beginning of the zodiac, right? Aries ruled by Mars, fire sign. So temperance reversed, right? So Aries, the Aries energy of the world right now. So if you remember, and I'll just sort of retell you, I guess, if you don't, that the really good way to use the zodiac is to read off of the opposite. I call them opposames. Okay. And so, yeah, and you kind of read back and forth, but we'll read them consecutively, but we kind of do this crisscross, right? And so there is this push, there is this division in society. Like there are a lot of people still captured. There are a lot of people that are still hooked to, like I was saying, like mainstream media and what the state tells them and what their so-called experts are telling them. And they're being tricked into a false sense of fear, security through war, And that at any time it's all going to collapse. And the next push right now is to defame President Trump and gaslight people into believing that he is going to do when he gets into power, because now they're freaking out because they realize like he's going to win. They got to steal election or start a war or start something to suspend the election. Right. So it's this gaslighting operation of like basically telling people that what they're about to do, they aren't going to go away. They are the ones that are going to round up their political enemies. That's what they've been doing. Weaponizing the law, weaponizing your children, all of this stuff, creating a one-party state, creating a dictatorship. This is what that's the next step for them, right up to the election probably. And there is going to be this battle and you're going to see it. And so there is still this kind of division there, right? It's not a 100%. And that's why people do need to be very active, right? So it's like, hurry up. The Temperance card is this energy of like, hurry up. And so Aries is very, active, right? But it's our creative will. This is the fire that is the spark of all life. Okay. So, and it's a youthful kind of sign, right? Like youthful energy. But when it feels stifled, it gets angry and a lot of frustration. And so we have to make sure not to play off of that and not to be in a reactive state, because the reaction is what they're expecting. Okay. They want us hanging off of this idea that you're doomed, like it could happen at any moment. And like peace is seriously like around the corner. A lot of the issues in the world could be resolved very quickly. That's what they don't want. They want the forever war. The neocons, the deep state progressives in, all of in Canada, it's the same thing. We call them the uniparty, and these people that are they're coming from the same angle. They want a forever war. They want us to be put into this sort of state where we're accepting their total control. And that's not what's going to happen, right? Because the people, people, like, they wanted to shut everybody down, and the people are speaking out. The people are noticing. They can't censor everybody. They can't shut everything down, but they're going to keep trying, right? So don't get frustrated is kind of like the message there. And you got to sort of look at this card. Now, when you can maybe zoom in or take a look, like Google it or whatever, like search for the picture if you don't have your own cards, right? And look in this card. And there's a pathway to sort of like a golden mountain. Okay. Let's just say this is where our direction is heading. And so the whole idea is to throw us off of our direction. Right. And so we have to sort of remind ourselves not to get triggered. And if we do, just take a step back and to re-engage in another way. But we're all being sort of called to action in some ways, right? And it's really kind of crucial not to sort of play into their machinations and their plans, right? Okay. Yeah. With Taurus here. Okay. So we'll move on to Taurus. Taurus ruled by Venus. This is the ruler of the fixed sign. So Aries is a cardinal sign. So that's direction, right? And Taurus is a fixed sign. So fixed is the structure. So the earth's structure. And the thing is that, the hangman represents a sacrifice in some ways, right? Because he's hung himself. He's been prepared to sort of hang in this tree. And in this card, it's a Tau cross, which is an ancient form of the cross, right? And kind of does go back into very old traditions, right? And very significant of the cross that we know now, right? But yet this character is almost like a yogic pose, right? And there's the 4 and the triangle. Now 4 and 3 is 7. Okay. And so this is higher mind, getting into the higher mind, getting into the channel, right? Because once he's finished, he comes out and he's enlightened, right? But it's this thing of creating an enlightened state, right? So it's almost like we have to see our world differently. We have to make certain sacrifices. Some of us really have to, because we've been hooked for so long on a system that is designed to destroy us, is designed to make us sick, is designed to depopulate us, right? And ultimately enslave us, if those that are sort of remaining, I guess, right? And so that's right now, this is the thing that we're all looking at. And I'm not talking about the austerity that they're talking, and because of the price of everything and all of this. And no, it's more like making some hard choices, like especially on how we go about in our material world, how we make money. Maybe some of us do have to sacrifice the work that we're doing to make a stand, because it's happening. You cannot be caught just following orders anymore. If you're tuned into this and you're awakening to all of this, it's not possible. The calling is towards a human future, a human destiny, a spiritualized human destiny. Okay? It truly is. And so the choices, the little choices that we make in our material world are very, very important. They're important for our children's sake, for our grandchildren's sake, for the children's children's children, that kind of thing, right? And it's super important. And you don't get overwhelmed. Just realize that it is the small things that really do help bring certain things together. But you know what? Honestly, we're ready. Okay. Cause many of us have been being prepared for this, right? Like, I mean, same thing like with the medical system and medications and things like this, and finding sort of alternatives or finding new ways or getting off of them or shifting it, right? So that there isn't so much of a dependency, right? Because this card is also sort of like, right, like the hand of divinity is holding out the offer, and there is a new path. And it's funny how it sort of is significant to that temperance card, right? Because it is kind of, there's that mountain. But yeah, there's a new situation being offered. There's a new sort of direction, right? But we have to take the opportunity. We have to go for it. It's not just going to happen on its own. Okay. So, right? And that's one thing. So the sacrifice, but it's for the spiritual purpose, right? Now, 2 major arcanas right away, right? So that's kind of, these are lessons that we've been sort of experiencing. We're prepared for these, right? We've been going through this already. So it's nothing new. Nothing what I'm saying is new, right? So, and that's what you remind yourself of. You're ready. Whatever it is, whatever challenge that you got to face, and it requires a bit of that self-sacrifice, you can do it. You're ready. You've been prepared for this. Okay. So moving on to the Gemini. So it's interesting in some ways. If you look at this card, it's kind of a Virgoian card, and Virgo is ruled by Mercury as well as Gemini, right? So except Virgo is an earth sign. Okay, so this has got my mind on my money kind of deal, right? But it's more independence, more paying attention to how everything does start first in the mind. And all of our connections in the world do rely upon how we think about it and our attitude towards it, right? This is super important. And so it's a kind of a thing. It's like, if you want to live in a more of abundant way, think abundantly, act abundantly, interact with your world more abundantly. Gemini is honestly like a sign of gregaciousness in a way, like of being friendly and being happy, even though it is a sign of polarity, but it's this thing of, like have fun too. It doesn't have to be all toil. Some Geminis actually might have time off. Okay? You might, the hardships in the material world actually might be a blessing for Gemini and that Gemini energy. It might actually be able to allow us to rethink a little bit where our next steps need to be, right? It's kind of a really good thing. Yeah. And it's just, I think what we got to realize is that in spite of our best efforts, if certain things haven't come together, there's a lot of things that play in our world, and has been this way for quite a while, where there's a lot of things outside of our control. Like we're being duped, and really the blindfold is coming off and the masks are coming off. And so that's what we got to kind of continue onward with. Yeah. It's just like overcoming like the disappointments of our past and not allowing it to sort of influence how we're thinking about our state in the physical world, developing that sense of inner abundance, spiritual abundance, the wealth of your being, the wealth of your experience, the wealth of the things that make you like your personality here in the now. And think on those. Don't think about what you're not getting out of the world. And what you're missing out on. Often, you're not missing out on anything. Like the FOMO, fear of missing out, doesn't really exist, right? It's in your mind, and that's what it wants you to sort of pay attention to, okay? And that's kind of what we're dealing with. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the reading, of the sort of the hook, right? Trying to hook us in the mind and the heart. Okay, so onward to Cancer. Cancer being the cardinal water sign. So the direction in the water, with the element of water, and is ruled by the moon. So the moon is a very interesting sign. The moon represents a very deep wisdom, is one thing. It represents the intuitive side of us. Right? It does represent that other part that we sort of maybe don't look at, right? And so, people are feeling it. But you know what? People are not so, because like so we got 2 9s in a row here, right? That's funny. So it's kind of the same old story. Feeling embattled. So that's the 9 of wands, right? So, and you look at this guy, the picture of this guy, he's set up a fort and he's kind of protecting himself, right? When it's reversed, he's kind of like, he's not hiding as much, or he might not be protected though, right? So it's sort of like, and I kind of take this card as experience in some ways, like it does kind of represent our experiences coming together to sort of create this barrier to deal with the onslaught of the world, right? But yeah, no, people are not willing to hide away as much anymore. So it's becoming time to for us to really feel at ease with reconnecting. And if we try to connect with people, then we can't, don't get discouraged. Keep going, right? We're not to be silent anymore. We are to be vocal. We are to go out and connect. However, let the gift of your being shine out into the world, and let other people experience that, share that if that's what you feel, right? But this is such an important thing, because that is what is going to shift the world in the right way. It really is. Okay. Yeah. Because if we're always sort of like buffeting ourselves and trying, we're not engaging in our world in a real way. Okay. And that's kind of what I'm picking up there. Okay. So onward to Leo, and Leo being the fixed sign of fire and ruled by the sun. Okay. And this is a very interesting sign because it represents passions, and it is that creative energy that sometimes it can be very wonderful, but can also be very destructive, right? And rulership and kingship, and this idea of our place in things, right? But it's the passions is kind of a big thing with this guy right now. And, you know, the passions are flaring and people are freaked out, right? The Knight of Swords is a very, can be a very conflictual card, but it can also be a card, especially with the right, like in the appropriate side, like the right side up, has a lot to do with cutting away the negative influences of the mind, negative influence of emotion. Now, with certain cards and with my deck there's the one on his bridle, on the horse's bridle, there's a little heart. Okay, and it's sort of this thing of like being in balance with the heart and the mind. Okay. But yeah, it's like striking ahead. Moving ahead with things, moving ahead with new ideas. The sword is not mightier than the pen. The pen, the keyboard is mightier than the sword in many cases, especially right now. In our pre-faux World War III world, or whatever it is that we're living in, we still have this opportunity to offset these warmongers and these social engineers that want to divide us, right? And censor us. That this is the time, right? And so, yeah, we're being called out. We're being called to go and speak our mind, to go speak in all of these different events, and the city councils and the school events and the work events, and not, you know, doing it in the proper way. Okay. And that's a tricky one. I mean, it's tricky, right? But we're being called, and this is good, right? We no longer need to carry that weight because there's enough people that kind of get it now. And the more people speak out, the more they're going to find courage, and they're going to speak out when it comes their turn. And that's what's been happening. Right? And so, and it is producing for us this sense of a new time. Okay. Okay. So now we move into Virgo being the mutable earth sign, right? Kind of like Gemini being the mutable fire or air sign. This is the mutable earth sign. Mutable signs move between the fixed, the structure, and the direction, right? So the mutable earth sign ruled by Mercury as well. So it's a co-ruler. Mercury rules both Gemini and Virgo. Five of Swords reversed. Okay, so Five of Swords reversed is this is people stepping away from, well, they're upset. People are very upset with the medical establishment. This is stepping away from health, the dependency on the medical, realizing what damage has been done. And what they've actually been doing with us. That's one thing, right? There's also people kind of giving up, right? They just can't handle it anymore. It's too much. Some of them have been very sick, right? They don't want to know the truth, right? And so it's kind of like, also some of us might be in a position where we might have to help some of these people, right? Not for them to lose hope. But it is this walking away walking away from the idea of it first, right? The idea that somehow, first and foremost, we need to be reliant on another person for our health and well-being. Primarily, it's up to us, right? And that's very important. Not through another person, right? So that's going to help find the right people and find the right people that work within the infrastructure. Because I'm not saying all, like, you know, everybody that's in the medical field is bad. No, they've got their challenges. They're hung up. These medical practitioners that are there, they've got their challenges, but these people are also of the light. There are people there, and the more they see others that are of like mind, they will also speak out, right? But yet we have to find the right people and the right places, right, to sort of draw from right now. But it does start in the mind. Now that it's an amazing thing. Like, healing does begin within the mind. Okay, so onward to the Libra. Libra ruled. So Libra is the cardinal sign of the earth, or cardinal sign of the air, ruled by Venus. Okay, and so this is our diplomat. This is the sign of diplomacy, but it does represent how we relate, relationships on every level. So, and that's the thing. It's like reestablishing our relationships, reestablishing our core relationships, not letting what is being projected onto us of the sense of the world to affect how we do approach our world. And so first and foremost, it's our core relationships, right? It starts with us, and then it extends outward to our families and to our loved ones, to our communities, to our nation, to our world. Right? But it does start with us, right? And so we can't let them throw us off of our track, especially us that are of the peacemaker types, of the unifiers. They're actively trying to throw us off. They're actively trying to throw the people that are there speaking out against their plans, the deep state, death cult globalists that want the forever wars, want the World War III. In some ways, the Libra energy has been kind of stuck. So it does need to be sort of mixed up. This is also what this kind of card, because the Knight of Pentacles on the right side up, he's following a track. You see these lines in the card here. That's the furrows in the field, right? So it's kind of like, he's like a farmer. But yet, when he's turned the other side up, it's sort of like all of a sudden the farmer turns into an activist, turns into a warrior, which is needed sometimes. Can't always be stuck in our track, right? But this is kind of the thing. It's like things need to be mixed up a bit, I guess, in order for us to sort of make further steps on our plan. But don't lose sight of the track that you are on, especially if you feel like you're on a good track. Trust yourself. You're in this sense of your world, right? Don't let it get thrown off right now. There's going to be elements that are there to throw it off, right? So moving on to Scorpio. Scorpio has got two rulers. Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Pluto. It's our fixed water sign, so it's the structure of water. It represents the occult, the hidden, the mysteries, but also the dynamic of power. The situation of power and partnerships is kind of a big thing. Yeah, people are waking up to the sense of their own sense of empowerment versus the false perceptions of power in the world. Wow, that was kind of a mouthful. That's important. That's good stuff, right? Because humanity has been sad and tormented, heartsick for so long that there needs to be a movement towards sort of mending that. Right? And that's kind of what this is. And when people start to become aware of the one true power versus the false perceptions of power, things grow and things heal and things shift. A lot of healing in partnerships. People are not wanting to be divided. Not at all. They may not agree, but they don't want to be divided. That is core to the human condition and to the human form. The spiritual impulse, the goodness of the human being is to be connected and is to be one with their fellow human, with the family of humanity. That's right. So that's kind of what this is. This is really cool because we've had to kind of come a long way. Like some of us had to work hard to be in the relationships that they're in, like the partnerships that they're in, long-term partnerships, or maybe not so long-term. I'm not sure, but I know long-term partnerships, it's not always easy, right? But it's important. They're to be honored. Whether we're in a relationship or not, whether we're, honor them because they give us those foundations, those roots that civilization is birthed upon. This is how humans come into the world, right? This is how love grows. This is how ideas come into life. This is how things become, right? That's how we have to think of it, right? So yeah, some of the hardships that are experienced with people and the dynamics of power between people, they're worth working out sometimes. But in this case, they are worth working out, okay? So moving on to Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the mutable fire sign. So, and is ruled by Jupiter. Okay. So this is a very expansive fire in its sort of motion, right? It's very expansive. Okay. And especially around sort of ideas and concepts and that kind of thing, right? And so with the Queen of Swords, and you notice we've got quite a few swords here. Well, maybe not. Maybe just 3. So for some reason, the swords really popped out on me. Swords of the mind, right? But she's very balanced. She's very balanced between her material and spiritual realms. Okay. She can kind of interact with either or. She's really good at, spotting moods in other people. Okay. And dealing with moods. And there's a big part of the transformative effect that is needed, like that balancing of the intuition and the intellect is needed in order for a transformation. And that's what she's there to facilitate. Okay. And so, things, right? It's like good ideas coming. This is such a good time to, I guess it is to make long-term plans in some ways. But, you can think a year or 2 years in advance. Trust me, we'll be here. We'll be doing a reading. We'll be talking about probably some of the similar things, but we'll be talking about how there's a marked improvement. And that's, a big part of it right now. We have, us, especially those that are watching this and on the awakened side, we have to start thinking like this. This is what is going to create this energy and act on it. Time is to act. Okay. Moving on to the 10th house. So house of Capricorn. Capricorn is the, directive sign or the cardinal sign of the earth. Capricorn ruled by Saturn kind of represents our, it's like our direction, can also be our public life, so, and it's funny and this is what I kind of mentioned before, because normally the high priestess, she's silent. It's like accessing our inner silence, accessing that which is within us. And it has a lot to do with like acquiring sort of spiritual knowledge and the cycles of time and all of that stuff. But when it's reversed, it has a lot to do with not being silent, being sort of agitated, right? And the thing that I pick up is if you're at work, your long-term career person or whatever it is that you're doing, it's time to speak up. It's time to, if you've been keeping silent, it's time to speak out, man. It's time to speak in your public world. Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's good to be balanced. It's good to be reserved. It's good to use tact, all of that stuff. But if not, doesn't matter. It'll get sorted out after. The time is now. You might have been holding back speaking your truth where it's needed. So now is the time. Okay. That's a big one. Then the other flip of it is don't let the agitation of the world agitate you out of your seat in your public life. That's the other thing, right? You don't be reactive to what's going on. Be active, right? That's the other part of it. It's kind of a little contradictory, but that's kind of the message there. Okay. Moving on. So what we've got going on, this is Aquarius. Aquarius being the fixed sign of air and ruled both by Saturn and Uranus. And Uranus is the card of, or the sign of change and revolution, right? It's also knowledge. Saturn can be as well. Saturn is the definite structure, right? But so it's sort of like in the realm of Aquarius, which represents our friend groups, the community in some way. It also kind of is institutions and sort of like higher knowledge in some regards. Yeah, like this is the time to sort of drop some of the burdens within our friends groups. I guess it's like cutting our losses with some people. I'm not sure. Moving. This is sort of having like his 10 of Wands is he's got the full bundle, right? So, and it's kind of like an experience thing. All of those wands represent that person's experience, right? So you've got that experience, like say it's like a school setting or some kind of institutional setting, or you've been learning something for a period of time. These are stepping stones. You've built up a template so that you can move to the next, so that there can be new knowledge, so that there can be a new study, a new understanding, new friend group. Maybe, you know, and I'm not saying too, it's like, busting out of the old groups. It might be, you know, engaging in new groups as well, not just old, right? You've got room to meet new friends, essentially is what this is actually talking about. You've got room to learn new things. Okay, and so the last one here is the Pisces. So it's the mutable water sign ruled by both Jupiter and Neptune. Okay, and so definitely represents like spiritual growth, spiritual release, spiritual development, right? And so many of us for the last 3 years, 3 years, have been prepared spiritually for everything that has taken place for this next time period, for this next year. This is kind of a year for me when I look at this Ace of Pentacles here, but yet it's like this 3 is a rhythm. It's the beginning of a foundation. Okay. And so it's right. We've been prepared for this, right? The steps have all been made, right? And so, you know, and it's like, if you're having a hard time visualizing your future or visualizing what is next for you, release your past. I guarantee you it's the past that's holding you, right? That's so necessary. This guy is looking out over the sea. It's his future, and his future looks bright. It's like, wow, look at that. Look, everything that I've been through has brought me to here, right? Well, I think that's it. I hope that came out clear. Now, with some of the cards in particular, go and read about them and do a little study, maybe like do a little meditation and study on the Ace of Pentacles. It can sort of help, right? And yeah, continue the learning on. So like I said at the beginning of the reading, we're going to make sure that we get a reading in either on Sunday or Monday. Sunday for sure, hopefully. 99.9% pretty sure that I'm going to do that, right? And then we'll continue on and we'll see what else comes out. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and wherever you are, please take care. Make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.